Thompson time. Thompson time. Thompson time.
Before the whistle, before the rails, before Main Street and courthouse tales, there were pines and red clay roads, quiet prayers where Wrightsboro rose. Old rock house standing through the years, stone and memory still standing here. Long before the town would shine, history was marking Thompson time.
First there was Wrightsboro, Quaker ground, simple faith and a stubborn sound, fields and wagons, work and grace, Georgia wind on an older place.
The little river kept rolling by, seasons turned beneath the sky, and every hand that cleared that land left a mark time still understands. Oh, Thompson, Georgia time, railroad steel and church bell chime, red clay heart with a soul that sings, built on working weathered dreams. From Wrightsboro days to downtown lights, from depot calls to chameleon nights, every mile and every line runs through Thompson, Georgia time. Then the railroad changed it all, smoke and iron, the engines call. In 1837 the depot came, and Slashes was the early name. In 1853 the town was known for J. Edgar Thompson, far from home. In 1854 it was made a town, and the tracks brought the wide world down.
Stores and hotels started to rise, promise growing before their eyes. And fire came in 86, and again in 88 came the same hard hit.
But the people here don't stay laid low, they rebuild strong when the hard winds blow. Brick by brick
And hand by hand they built this town again to stand. Oh, Thompson, Georgia time, railroad steel and church bell chime,
red clay heart with a soul that sings, built on work and weathered dreams.
from Wrightsboro days to downtown lights, from depot calls to chameleon nights,
Every mile and every line
runs through Thompson, Georgia time.
McDuffie County drew the line, and in 1870 came Thompson's time.
The county seat was planted here, and the town stepped forward year by year.
Telephone lines in 1901, new voices traveling one by one, water, power, streets, and trade. A stronger town was slowly made.
Thomas E. Watson rose from here, a thunder voice folks still can hear. Love him or not, his name remains in Georgia talk and public names.
He pushed for mail on country roads, hope delivered to distant homes. History's never simple or clean, but every town keeps all its Then came music from these streets, Blind Willie McTell and 12-string grief. A sound from Thompson rolling wide like a midnight train through the countryside. From Happy Valley to stages far, he carried this town in every bar. That blues still hums when evening falls, like a ghost in the depot walls. The city's more than maps and signs, more than numbers, dates and lines. It's football lights and Sunday clothes, front porch talk and camellias glow. It's teachers, farmers, workers, preachers, parents, dreamers, hometown keepers, all the souls through loss and pride who kept Thompson alive through time. Oh, Thompson, Georgia time, railroad steel and church bell chime, red clay heart with a soul that sings, built on work and weathered dreams. From Wrightsboro days to downtown lights, from depot calls to chameleon nights, every mile and every line runs through Thompson, Georgia time. Thompson time, red clay shine, old roots holding through the years. Train songs, church bells, chameleon nights, memories stronger than our fears. From the rock house stone to the county line, it still beats that old Thompson time. Still beats that old Thompson time. Before the whistle, before the rails, before Main Street and courthouse tales, there were pines and red clay roads, quiet prayers where Wrightsboro rose. Old rock house standing through the years, stone and memories still standing here. Long before the town would shine, history was marking Thompson time. First there was Wrightsboro Quaker ground, simple faith and a stubborn sound, fields and wagons, work and grace, Georgia wind on an older place. The little river kept rolling by, seasons turned beneath the sky, and every hand that cleared that land left a mark time still understands. Oh, Thompson, Georgia time, railroad steel and church bell chime, red clay heart with a soul that sings, built on work and weathered dreams. From Wrightsboro days to downtown lights, from depot calls to chameleon nights, every mile and every line runs through Thompson, Georgia time. Then the railroad changed it all, smoke and iron, the engines call. In 1837 the depot came, and slashes was the early name. In 1853 the
It is that time, so welcome to all those in attendance. We will call this Monday, June 1st work session to order. First, we will start with an invocation. Commissioner Favors, Reverend Favors.
Father, we're grateful for this day and we're grateful for this evening's work. Bless now, Father, that the work that is done will be fruitful for you. Bless all of the efforts that's placed in it. In your name, our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll move on to the approvals, the first being of tonight's agenda. I will ask for a motion to strike item number 21. Manager Burton said we're not ready to get into that tonight, so we're going to push that off. So is there a motion to approve with that correction?
So moved. Second.
Vice Chairman Wilson, seconded by Commissioner Joplin. All in favor. Item number 2, no minutes. I think that was a error on the computer pre-generated agenda thing. No information announcements tonight. We'll move on to appointments and reappointments. Item number 3, discussion to reappoint Harris Richards to the Recreation Advisory Board. I talked to Mr. Richards last week. He's been serving on the Recreation Advisory Board and he would like to be reappointed. Is there any discussion on this item? If there's no discussion, we will move that item to the agenda for Wednesday morning for reappointment. Old business, item number 4, discussion on ordinance 2026-003 for special events. This is the special events ordinance we have discussed. I think there have been some corrections made. I'll turn it over to Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is one that we've kind of passed back and forth. We went through and made some edits after discussion with y'all and a couple of folks. Again, this is a countywide special event ordinance. It kind of gives some structure to how we would issue issue a permit. There is one thing that I'd like to redline tonight. After talking with some of y'all, for instance, Bellmead or the Hunt Club out there might have a large number of folks for any given event. And I would recommend changing the 100 to 200. And we also added language in there that excluded a special event permit for private gatherings held on residential property. That way, if you have a large tailgate, you have a private fireworks show, a wedding reception, something like that at your private residence, it would be excluded from this. Obviously, funerals would be excluded, lawful picketing, city and county sponsored events, lawful demonstrations, things of that nature are excluded from this. It lists several definitions. Go through this and then the process about, if there's an appeal, the county doesn't issue a permit or staff doesn't recommend one be issued. There's an appeal process and then some enforcement guidelines in here as well. We did add the prohibition of certain locations here at the government complex and a special exception for the 2 parcels there at the Brickyard. There is a section 12 in here pertaining to tailgating events, things of that nature, and then there's a list of things that are not allowed.
So this will address the Brickyard property.
Yes.
It explicitly
where is that?
addresses that in item number 12.
Section 12.
The other thing I thought about, Brandon, should we add in there church events, or does that defeat the purpose of the whole? I mean, this is basically just a communication piece, right? I mean, this permit approval, but my only other thought.
Well, down at the bottom, all other uses of this property shall proceed through the permitting process as, written prior in here.
All right, any thoughts on this ordinance from the board?
Is Sweetwater Park, addressed in here?
Yeah, it covers all county property,
That's right. That's what it said
countywide.
that.
Campgrounds, Sweetwater.
And the campground, yeah.
Any discussion? Anything anybody sees that needs to be changed? If not, I'd say we move this to the Wednesday agenda as well. Item number 4.
I was just thinking of the Deering, cook-off and stuff like that. Would that be addressed by the city of Deering?
If it's inside their jurisdiction, they would handle that.
All right. So item number 4 will go on Wednesday's agenda. Item number 5, moving into new business, discussion on setting a date for the Bernice Brown Park ceremony. I think there were, Commissioner Joplin was asking a question about that. The city council actually voted back in 2019. Their clerk, Lucretia Ferguson, sent us some minutes on that. The city and county had moved forward with renaming the park to honor Miss Bernice Brown back in 2019. The sign had not been purchased and moved forward with. I think Brandon has organized that through SPLOST funds, taking care of the sign. And so through conversations with the city, the proposed date is June 22nd at 10:30. The sign is actually already there if you want to ride by. Miss Bernice's daughter sent me a picture and they were ecstatic about the sign, but they have some out-of-town family members that would like to come too, so we're proposing June 22nd at 10:30. That's a Monday, right? Clerk Goodyear? I think it's a Monday, so. If there's no objection or further discussion, we'll set that date, and I see Ms. Teresa's here, but we'll let the city know they've already agreed to that date, and we'll just add that to the information announcements for Wednesday. All right, item number 6, discussion on the use of the Government Center complex for the Freedom Blast 2026 event. This is the normal request from the Chamber of Commerce to hold the Freedom Blast here on the Government Center lawn. That would be Thursday, July 2nd from 6 to 10. I think they're asking for setup at a different time. Brandon, do you want to go over those details?
I was at their meeting the other day, and then had to leave to go to another one, but I believe they want to start earlier, around 3:15 that afternoon,
Just for setup.
just for setup.
So if there's no further discussion on that item, we'll move it to Wednesday's agenda as well. Item number 7, discussion.
Okay, what we
Yes.
got to do, I thought we had already approved that.
Sir?
What we got to do, I thought we had already approved.
We hadn't approved that. Trying to think what that was that came before us from the chamber, but we haven't approved this year's request. All right, item number 7, discussion on Russaw Creek Road traffic study report. I'll turn this over to Mr. Burton.
Thank you again. I know this had been a topic prior to me arriving here, and then since I've gotten here, about some sort of traffic control measures out on Russaw Creek. I've gotten several inquiries from residents out there regarding speed. So I initiated Atlas, our consulting engineers, to perform a traffic engineering analysis out there. They performed a speed study, traffic count study out there, The request from several residents out there was obviously to adjust the speed and to install traffic calming devices, speed bumps. The engineers, with the data that they collected, the crash data that they took a look back at, it did warrant adjusting a speed limit of 25 mile an hour and changing the alignment signs, the yellow diamonds that you see that show which way the curves break ahead of that curve. So they did recommend adjusting the speed limits out there. However, they did not recommend installing any traffic calming devices.
Have you talked with Sheriff Marshall about this?
Not
The
yet.
speed limit?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
I was surprised about the speed limit. I mean, the speed humps and the data that I guess it shows that really there have been nobody exceeding the speed limit over 65. If I
Yeah.
read that report correctly.
Meeting their threshold, and I had them count in 3 different locations prior to getting into the residential area and throughout the residential area. So now, with the caveat, this was taken a little bit early, but the boating activity has already picked up some, so there should be some somewhat accurate data out there. However, if they do come back and y'all feel that further analysis is warranted, we can definitely do that. But I did just want to share this with you, that they did not recommend any structural changes out there.
They got speed bumps out there.
That was the original request, was for speed bumps. I do know the sheriff's office redid the speed limits, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, countywide, and so we might just reach out to him. And
Yeah, I just had gotten this, and I wanted to let y'all know, and then I'll get with the sheriff's office.
Understood. Any other discussion on that item? All right, we'll move to item number 8, discussion on ordinance 2026-001 on data centers. This is, again, we've discussed this, we've put it off to have some things edited. Mr. Burton, do you want to go over any of those changes that were made to this ordinance before we?
This, again, does not create a zoning district like some other jurisdictions have. This goes more in detail of the permitting process, what's required of the applicant, and the standards that they'd be held to. And this does mirror the conditions that we put on the last special exception for the data center that was approved.
So is this, for us to approve that Wednesday?
It would be ready for first reading
Yeah,
on
first
Wednesday
reading
if
would
we,
be Tuesday.
Okay.
it'll need 2 readings.
I mean, we've got to advertise for that, but if y'all want to push it out, it's clearly up to y'all if you want to take more time or if you want to go ahead and move on it. We're ready.
No, I just soon just move on with it. Cause it's got everything that we approved.
Did Dave Dunaway have any comments on this?
No, this was sent to him in part back when we were doing the conditions. So,
And you said we'd have to advertise for the first reading as well?
we have.
Oh,
We've
we've
already
already-
taken that step if y'all choose to go ahead with the first and second reading. But if not, I mean, that's fine as well, but we did go ahead and advertise in case y'all
Is there
did.
any objection to adding this to Wednesday's agenda? Any further discussion that y'all want to look into on this?
Brandon, nothing is new is coming from the state legislators regarding data centers. Anything new coming out of the state?
I hear talk about things, but I've not seen anything from the state or ACCG. Unless I actually have Alicia Vaughn from ACCG here to talk about another item, and I don't know if she's listening. But she may be able to chime in.
Hey, Brandon, I'm sorry. I can hear what you're saying, but I can't hear what anyone else is saying, so I'm not sure what the question was.
Commissioner Favors was inquiring if the state has pushed out anything on the state level regarding regulation on data centers. I told him that I'd seen, some back and forth, but I never saw anything concrete. I haven't seen any direction.
Right. So there were several bills that were proposed through this last legislative session, but none of those bills passed, to my knowledge. So right now, nothing has changed on the state level as far as data centers are concerned. There were some different bills. One of them addressed the ability to put in place moratoriums, and it attempted to limit moratoriums. That did not pass. There currently is in place a sales tax exemption for data centers that's very favorable to data centers. There was some legislation that would sunset that exemption, but to my knowledge, that did not pass. And then there's certainly been a lot of conversation with concerns around power rates and different bills that would try to control how the cost of infrastructure for data centers affects power rates for the residential user, but nothing right now has been passed to date.
Okay. I don't have any problem with moving forward. I'm good.
All right. Item number 8 will go to Wednesday's agenda as well. Item number 9 is discussion on ordinance 2026-002, animal control. I'll turn this over to Mr. Burton as well.
Again, I think we've passed this around a little bit. This is somewhat of an amalgamation of other counties, and I believe Burke County as well. What they have is very comprehensive. It obviously lists definitions, the hold periods, who enforces it, adoption process, and other regulations for, obviously, rabies is a statewide thing, pet licensing, collaring, tethering, animal fighting, restates the definition of dangerous and vicious dogs, sheltering provision in there, and then, if the county decides, euthanasia, the process, the whole period in the process for that.
So it does outline some of the policies and procedures that we have been lacking over the years.
It does, and if you take a look at our existing ordinance, it just merely defines what a vicious dog is and gives the animal director the authority to act that, but that basically mirrors the state law. So this takes it a step further and enacts true animal control with an ordinance in place to back that up.
So in talking to Director Bowler, we have the control portion of it coming in January 1st. Is that that's the plan?
We can adopt it, but it'll take a while to get it codified. But then if you want to, put in there that this will take place January the 1st, 2027, you can definitely do that.
Okay.
My question is how we're gonna enforce any of it?
Well, and that's the step. The county's gonna have to make an investment on additional personnel and equipment and facilities in order to implement this.
Well, have you given us information about how much that's gonna cost the county?
Well, in the SPLOST 8, there's $1 million
Right.
for the upgrade, so
Right.
that's for the facility. You're probably looking at another $60,000 to $70,000 for a vehicle to outfit that, and you might as well say another $70,000 for
A year?
No, that's just one time, but another $70,000, and I'm using 70 as a round number for an employee. That's their base salary plus any fringe benefits that
Well,
they
that's a
would
year,
get.
per year.
That's a year.
That's ongoing
But-
expense.
Yeah, that's the ongoing expense. Now, for the vehicle and the equipment and the other ancillary things, I think there's $150,000 in a previous SPLOST that hasn't been used, and that was for animal shelter upgrades. So that could be applied towards vehicles and equipment.
There's a good chunk for vehicles, fleet replacement in the SPLOST 8 too.
And in SPLOST 8, there's the $1 million for fleet as well. So there's parts of this is already built in.
What's the time frame
future
on that?
SPLOST.
When's it set up in the SPLOST 8?
That'll be up.
As soon as
That'll be
it-
up to the board.
Yeah.
Is to prioritize when those collections start coming in, because we're not gonna get the money all at one time. So we'll just have to decide on when you wanna start implementing that stuff.
Well, that's the question I have, so. So is that built in on this ordinance at this point, because it starts on January 1st?
The funding is not, no. I mean, the funding is out there.
But as far as
in
the
the future-
procedures and policies of the building, this should have been put in place a long time ago, so it's not really a matter of if,
I mean, and obviously it's y'all's pleasure if you wanna, get all the money and start building the equipment, then enact this, or go ahead and get this in place so we can start building the program.
Well, SPLOST 8 hadn't started yet. so-
Exactly, and it won't start till 2027.
Yeah,
And then obviously it takes a while to get those collections.
right.
And then board would have to prioritize which bucket they want to attack first. But this gives us the teeth in order to enforce anything.
The employee salary, is that a enforcement person?
It would be. I'd say staff now could do what they could up until then. But then, you get an actual certified, person, and Kat, feel free to jump in if I misspeak. But once you get a certified person that's got, the ACO, is it 1 and 2? 3. So once they hit those benchmarks, but I use the 70,000 number as just a round starting number, but that's salary and benefits. That's a rule of
From a
thumb.
euthanasia perspective, how's that budgeted?
It's currently there's currently,
Yeah, we just do it under the vet services.
yeah, that's already budgeted, on an as needed basis.
I just wonder, with the enforcement personnel, that could increase the necessity of that service, I guess.
It very well could, yes. But with that person there, they also have, again, they have the ability to conduct those, in-house if they're properly certified.
Okay, so they could do that? Oh, okay.
They could do that. The county would just have to get a drug license and then get the prescription for the medicines that are required.
Well, that would be, it actually could offset some expense right now, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm already actually certified to do that.
Okay.
all right, is there any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move it to Wednesday's agenda for the first reading. Item number 10, discussion on ACCG IRMA insurance renewal. This is our insurance renewal. The staff report has been prepared, and I think, is this, what Alicia, is she gonna give the presentation tonight, or
No,
we just, okay.
no.
So the renewal has a 12% increase over last year. There were several pieces of equipment and buildings that were not on our insurance before, and those have been added. I think Clerk Goodyear sent out an email, got all the department heads to update that information, and so we have an increase on that. Ashton, do you want to add anything to this from this report?
Just in your packets, I listed the information. It's the mobile equipment schedule, our property schedule, our renewal invoice, and our vehicle schedule. It's also a little bit higher this year because every 5 years ACCG does a property appraisal report, and that was done in 2025. So that's reflecting higher values, which also equals in our insurance being a bit higher. The rate that we are looking at for this year is $556,902, and that is about a 12.3 increase.
Probably
So-
the lion's share of that increase is the airport. Because one of those things that the county and the city both are joint owners, it was on the advice of our legal counsel that we go ahead and insure that as well. So that's one of the bigger increases. And also, as Ms. Goodyear said, a lot of the properties were revalued, so the replacement value obviously increased. Raysville Fire Station being one of them, but because we're doing the improvements out there.
And we did look at, or we are going to look at taking some of these properties off that may be slotted to be demoed or.
Yes, identified several properties that we could decommission, tear down, and remove those off the insurance roll.
Yeah, I was looking at,
And then there's probably one or two properties on there that we could sell as well.
the Thompson Company building, the value of that.
I think the old voter registration building is one we could get rid of. The old jail on Main Street, that old law enforcement center, we could tear down. We could get rid of that one. Obviously, the old tax office that we discussed, that's one that we might could sell. And then the newly acquired property, the Development Authority, hopefully they will get that property fixed up and sold, resold, so that would come off as well. Those are just a few that identified, and they have some somewhat significant value on them.
So, Brandon, I understand why our county attorney advised that we be listed or insure the airport, but how many of these buildings are we doubly insuring, we being the taxpayers?
Quite a few. Up until this last year, we were double insuring all of the utilities. We did pull those off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. That's one of the things. We have this relationship with another jurisdiction. And I said it during the SPLOS work session. It's probably time we need to take a hard look at some of this stuff, because like you just mentioned, there's double bills being paid.
Well, I was looking at the Greenway, the senior center is valued at $3.5 million. I mean, that's,
Kind of high.
that ain't kinda high. That's way out of,
Yeah.
that's way off.
So when do we need to approve this item? Can we push this to the Tuesday night agenda? And I think Ashton said something about getting a list of what we were actually paying broken down by property. Is that
I can get that. I talked to someone at ACCG, and I can get that if the board wants it.
okay?
This invoice is due by July 1st.
July 1st.
So we've got
Well, we gotta insure it, but, could we possibly look at some of these values and,
Just try to get that down.
try to get them in within, right, what would you value that senior center at, Andy?
You can do a replacement cost estimation on it. We're not trying to write the insurance, but we're happy to do that for you.
Well, I'm just getting a ballpark figure on Greenway Street,
You're probably looking at $250, $300 a square foot right now to reconstruct anything. Something like that's probably closer to $350.
If you had to rebuild that building, 2.3 million, I could see that.
Really?
Yeah.
'Cause the
The
real estate,
building's bigger than you think, and then there's 750,000 worth of contents.
Yeah, well, I saw
'Cause
the
there's
contents, that was.
The
that was-
kitchen, the kitchen's in there, and then that wing back there, so yeah, I'd say, that cost over $2 million to replace.
All right.
I believe another property that was added that was not on here before is the old gym at the school across from the brickyard that will potentially be the elections building.
And it was valued at several million too, I think.
It was.
2.5, 3 million. All right, is there any further discussion? Any questions? We'll move on to item number 11, discussion on budget amendments.
We have several budget amendments to make to the county's budget. These are first quarter budget amendments. The first set is for general fund. It will increase the overall general fund by $564,295. And I'm just going to go through these line by line. Hurricane Helene, we're still paying GMC, which is helping us with our reimbursements. $25,000 is needed. We will apply for reimbursement from FEMA for these dollars later on this year. Alcohol and drug testing needs $1,000. The board approved a vehicle for the sheriff of $44,845. The senior center needs travel of $2,358. They collected some trip revenue for a trip they were going on, and so later on we'll have offsetting revenue. The same thing for the senior center and supplies. They had some donations for $73. The next few lines is for $35,559, which is for the salary for Jimmy Crawley. When we prepared the budget, we did not have Jimmy's salary in there. The next set is for the sheriff's office. The sheriff received some funds from Back the Blue from tag collections, and so he's able to give those out to his officers. The next one is for our admin expense, $43,184. As you all know, that we got the TAN funds, we invested those, we earned interest, so we had to pay the IRS this amount for an arbitrage report. $42,255 is needed to replace Tory Battle's vehicle that was totaled. The next line item is $156,640. It's a local match. And this is for the project that we have for Wrightsboro Road. We have some engineering costs and grant costs. We are still working to fund this project. So right now, general fund is going to pay for those items, and we will see if we can fit them in and get reimbursed from other sources later. The next amendment is $194,483. These are some funds that we're going to put in for builder repairs. They're just miscellaneous buildings that the county owns. The city internet is the Deering internet service we're paying is $4,500. You'll see an offsetting revenue where we bill the town of Deering. Along with the city internet of $8,800, we will also bill them for their share. On the revenue side, there's interest income of $55,000 for earnings that we've made on the TAN funds. Vending machine income of $100. There's offsetting revenues for the senior citizen trip revenues they collected and for the contributions we discussed. Insurance reimbursements, $357,331. And then there's a reimbursement for the town of Deering for $82,602. This is for, we bill them for the street for print up that we had paid. They paid and they reimbursed us back for their payment. We did it as one bid sometime last year. They paid those funds this year. The city of Thompson's internet, we discussed $8,800. The Back the Blue, the sheriff received $5,735. Merchant fees were collected for the animal shelter, $200. Condemnations for the clerk of court, $8,000. The 911 centers received some revenue that's going to reduce what the general fund needs to contribute, $15,873. And the fires received some additional revenue so we can reduce the general fund's contribution by $28,223. The next set of amendments accounts for the floss, $1.5 million that we're gonna take in for the city of Thompson, and we're gonna reimburse the city of Thompson for their share. The next amendment is, for Judge Burley, $11,678. The board approved in a previous meeting for her to receive some of the funds she receives for vital records. The next set is $130,150. This is for the Development Authority. The county is paying some expenses and billing the Development Authority, so it's kind of a wash. The next amendment you have is we're going to recognize the prior year taxes that were collected this year for the previous tax collection period, $2,988,834. We're going to hope to move these funds back to general fund. We're not going to expend those funds because they were actually for last year's tax year. The next one you have is for 911. We received a payment from Glasscock County of $15,873. This allows us to back down the contribution general fund needs to make. The next amendment is for Fund 220. We had one last payment from our CHIP grant. We received of $24,233. The next set of amendments is for Fund 230. This is the broadband. We did not budget for broadband because it was supposed to be completed by 2025. This amendment's for $3,144,855. Fund 250, Stephanie Walker was at your last meeting with a grant from the EOA she received for $10,000. This just records the revenues and the expenses. The county also serves as a physical agent for the ARPA grant, and there was some audiovisual funds received for other counties, so we're just going to record those revenues and expenses of $350,000. Last year, the IT department received a cybersecurity grant. Those revenues were received this year, $67,410. The next set is for the fire and EMS fund. We had a surplus sale last year, $11,711. Those funds need to be paid over to the fire department. They received an insurance reimbursement of $7,512. Billing fees we have collected for Warren and Glasscock County of $12,000. And they are also need an increase in merchant fees of $3,000. With all these changes, we're able to roll back the amount needed from general fund for $28,223. The next set is external billing. We have had some revenues for Warren County and Glasscock County during the runoff period with EMS billing. Those total $225,000. Fund 327 is SPLOST 5. We paid for an ad in the newspaper. We have to run annual ads of $312. Fund 328 is SPLOST 6. It's the same thing with the ad of $351. Fund 345 is the LMEGA fund. The county received an additional $31,878 in LMEG funds. Fund 540 is solid waste. They are now collecting merchant fees, and we're being charged merchant fees. That amendment is needed for $2,400. The campground fund is the same thing with Big Heart. There's $100 in merchant fees anticipated and $100 to be collected. This is just for like miscellaneous day use passes. The majority of their revenue comes through their their RMS billing or reservation service. And the last one is for $57,798. Stephanie Walker received some additional funds from DOT that we're going to use towards the roof on that building of $57,798. I know that's a lot of amendments. Does anyone have any questions on those amendments?
When is the Warren and Glasscock County for the EMS service, or is it just for the 911 service, or when does that end?
Well, we got one payment for 911 from Glasscock, and we're still collecting some funds for Glasscock and Warren County. Things that were billed last year, but the revenues are coming in this year.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why we didn't put it in the budget, because we were not expecting it, but we're having.
Okay, so that's going to go away then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is all prior year stuff from
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Pam. Any further discussion on that item? If not, we'll move these.
Okay, we've got, yes, sir.
You got-
So this is all.
Is the reserve and this was.
My notes here. Is this in their packet?
I don't know, did you hand them out copies?
No, I didn't get these
Okay.
just yet. But I think one thing that we need to have a discussion about for SPLOST 6, there was an original allocation for SPLOST 6 in certain amounts. And then I believe, from what I could dig up at a 2018 retreat, there was some discussion between city and county administration about reallocating some of those buckets within SPLOST, if you will. And I'm not sure that there was ever board action taken on that. So in an effort to keep some of these expenditures in line with each of those originally intended buckets, I just need to bring that to y'all's attention because there's certain things on this list because other buckets have overspent. There's some other things that may not be able to be funded out of SPLOST 6. Recreation, for example, recreation had an original bucket of $292,000. And that was adjusted to $177,000, and a little over $1 million was spent towards recreation. Some of the other buckets didn't get as much spent, so overall, the allocation wasn't. There's still SPLOST money in there, but what I'm saying is some of those buckets were overspent for what they were allocated for. I have the city still has $700 and something thousand remaining out of the water and sewer bucket. There's still a little bit left. And I believe in roads and streets. No, I'm sorry. That bucket went over about $280,000. The airport bucket went over. It was originally at $150,000 and was trimmed down to $75,000. Information technology was originally scheduled, programmed at $175,000 and it increased to $250,000. Solid waste was originally allocated $300,000 and reduced to $100,000. So I just needed to bring that some of that to your attention, so we can.
Can you get us that report before Wednesday?
I will. I should have had copies. I intended on, because we run this at the last minute, and I meant to have the copies to hand out tonight, but. And I'll own some of this. When I put together the budget in a hurry last year, I didn't realize that the extent that some of this was reallocated. So I probably got a little too aggressive with the SPLOST 6 planning. So some of this stuff will have to be trimmed back. The Deering recreation, some of that money should be there. I mean, obviously we'll honor some of that. I believe the city still has some money for some lighting, a lighting project. There's still some money left for I think some public safety work and economic development work, and the Rock House. But I'll get this updated sheet to y'all so we can discuss that further. But I did want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move item number 11 to Wednesday's agenda, and you'll have the report added with the SPOS. Pam, you need to say something.
We got
else.
one more thing.
I got you.
And also, we're doing the budget amendments. Probably a little farther in the year, y'all always authorize the finance director or the county manager to move funds out of reserve down to our operating account. So we, to improve our cash flow, and as that comes, we move the money back. So that takes board authorization. It's a little early, but with how much things cost, we'll need to start a little bit earlier about making those transfers. So we'll have operating cash as we need it. So that'll be on the agenda as well Wednesday.
Are we gonna be more on time on our millage rate adjustment? Well, I guess we're having a discussion on.
Yeah, I've
some
got
of that tonight.
I've got a agenda section on that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Item number 12, discussion on health insurance.
Okay, I see Andy's here. I've got Amber on the computer here. We put together several scenarios, and they're in color, but the final sheet kind of breaks down. As you know, at the last board meeting, y'all approved the transition to go to Anthem to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So now comes the part of how are we going to fund this. There was $1 million increase.
$1,007,307.
So this new plan, the increase is about a little over $1 million. So we got to make some decisions on how to fund that. There are several ways that we can lessen the burden on the county in order to fund that. So we've come up with some different employee share options. Obviously, there's an option of keeping everything the same, or there's an option of adjusting the percentages that the government pays and the employee pays. And this last sheet with the 4 big rows on it identifies those and how much each one would save the county. The colored sheets go into a little bit more detail, but we kind of summarized everything into one sheet. And again, the color sheets and the summary sheet. The summary sheet shows both monthly costs to the employer, the government, and the employee, and the far right column is the savings, potential savings to the county. And Andy, Amber, Pam, myself are here if y'all have any questions and want to dive into this.
That goes in effect July 1st. When is that when it? So we.
July the 1st. And depending on one of these, if we intend to keep the employee share, their contribution the same for the rest of this calendar year, it was 400. No, it was.
Well, basically, if it's $1 million and we have to come up with half of that in a 6-month period, it's $503,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's what, and there is no contingencies or anything in the budget for it. So if you all do nothing, then it's 503 to the general fund.
Well, some of that comes down to the discussion on the floss and tax digest thing, because from a revenue projection, I mean, we've got to have the money to pay it.
Yes, sir.
And I was going to save this for later, but I'll go ahead and tell you the assessors is looking like the tax digest might not be as stout as it was last year. They're still running the numbers, but the growth is not. We may not realize the high value of the digest as we had. they're still working on those numbers. He didn't want to alarm, and I asked him, I said, how comfortable are you? And he said, about 70%. So there's still a little bit of area, a little bit of room. The numbers that he showed me, he said they would go up. But he's saying he's not anticipating any growth in the digest.
Well, my question is okay, we got $1 million of insurance, then we have this other question, discussion about COLA. And that was one of the things we tried to, I didn't want to give employees something and take it away in the insurance side of it, because it's kind of like they're not really getting an increase actually, but the other side of that is from a floss projection perspective and the fire fee side of it, we got some hard questions we got to answer.
The cost went up last year 28%, and the county absorbed all of it, which was a lot when we got ready to prepare the 2026 budget.
So if you add those two percentages together, does that mean that the insurance, basically the cost has gone up 50% in 2 years? Is that,
At least.
would it be fair to say that?
We have a lot of high claims that
I think that's
that
what
we're
Andy
paying.
was talking
So
about
that's a large driver on the insurance cost, is there's just a lot of high dollar amount claims.
Yeah, so out of these five, the recommendation is the one that is the last sheet, correct?
Well, that's just a breakdown of everything.
I'm sorry, I meant the last colored sheet. You've got it broken down into employer percentages.
I don't think the page number broke out.
Well, it's what I'm reading is you got 20, 50, 50. Is that what you're looking at?
That's the first iteration. That's what Andy had talked about the other night at the meeting, was just saying if the employee pays an additional $20 a month for the employee themselves, and then an additional $50 for dependent costs. There's other scenarios in here as well. Obviously keeping everything the same as it is this year as far as employee contribution and employer contribution. There's a 95%, 70, 80, 70 contribution level. There's a 90, 70, 80, 70 contribution level. And then there's a 96, 70, 70, 70 contribution level. And those percentages are what the employer would contribute.
So on the last gray sheet you all have, it's got the 4 columns, and it tells you how many individuals are in each level and what the current payroll deduction is. And on the far right side, it tells you by your choices, what the savings will be to the county. This last sheet just kind of summarizes all those sheets that you have, and it puts it to where you can compare it on one sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about the current percentages, with our current plan, we have the same percentages. This is just using the new rate with the same percents that the county has. That's your first, where it says 85 current percentages. That's just going on the current percentages the county has now, but with the new rates. I know it's a little overwhelming when you first look at all the different scenarios.
So take employee spouse, right now they're paying $237. If you look at that same thing, they're paying 75%, the county's paying 75% of that cost right now. If you maintain that 75% cost, the employee would go to $324. Y'all follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So they go from 236 to 324.
So that's $100 a month increase.
Maintaining it from a percentage standpoint.
That's actually payroll deduction. That's not really by month. That's per payroll. Per payroll.
$100 per payroll?
Per
Yes, sir.
payroll?
Yes, sir.
Whoa.
Oh,
That's what the county eats? No, the employee
Employee.
goes
That's what the
up
employee would pay.
At
employee
that,
would have to pay.
at that percentage, the current percentage we're using right now with the new insurance premium cost.
Yes, sir. And it would start the second, well, the pay period in July.
Mm.
And you've got 13 employee spouse on the plan.
We need to go ahead and vote on this Wednesday, right, to get everything in place by.
We need to have a decision, if, if you wanna carry the same percentage level as we currently are, or if we're open to looking at increasing the percentage that the employee will pay.
What percentage are we paying for, and there's 20 percentages down here, so what percentage are we paying of spouse or family?
You're paying, for the employee only, you're paying 96% of it.
Right, but I'm talking about the spouse and
75% for the employee spouse, 85 for employee child, and 73 for family.
It's your top line on that gray sheet.
Yep.
Is your first line is what the county is currently paying.
Which are high percentages, compared to employers. Now, I understand it's a different scenario here, but it's still a higher percentage if somebody were to go to a local business and try to add their family on, it would typically be a lot higher. They would be responsible for a much larger percentage.
But yeah, Bill, what she's saying is it says in here individual plans, employee spouse plans, employee child, and then at the first line of that each is what the current percentage we're paying is. Does that make sense?
I was on that gray sheet,
Yeah.
now I'm on,
Yeah, on that-
now I'm
on
on
that
the
final
colored
sheet.
one.
Does staff have a recommendation budgetarily? I mean, do we?
My recommendation is to look at the 90, 70, 70, 70. That would be where the employer covers 90%, for an individual. We have the most in that. We have 119 participants. And you roughly save around 150,000 in that category alone.
So we paying 96, is that what I'm reading here?
We're paying 96 currently.
And you go with 90.
Correct.
And then 75 on employee and spouse, which is kind of rich. And then 85, and you're saying go to 70?
We would go to 80. And then we would go 90, 70, 80, and 70.
What would that save us?
390. Thereabouts, 390.
Yeah. Almost 400,000.
Of that $1 million?
Yep.
Setting your lows.
Now that passes on a fair amount, but I'll confess, the employees said, if y'all just get Blue Cross Blue Shield, we don't mind paying a little bit more. So I took them up on it when we worked all this up.
Well, we're still paying 90%. I mean, that's,
And truthfully, this is probably what's in line with other places. The last government job I worked at, I paid roughly 10-12%
yeah.
of the cost.
And what was that? Didn't we absorb $400,000 last year?
Yeah, we didn't
Three.
pass any of the increase to the employees last year.
We didn't pass any off. That's what.
No.
Yeah, it was like
No.
383 or three, something like that.
Well, we're still gonna have to eat 600 this year.
I know, but yeah.
So if we pass off 400, so we still gotta come up with 600, right?
Well, the million is for a full year.
So that's for half a year. The remaining. So we need to.
Yeah, but I mean, that, it's irrelevant. It's for a year, for 12 months. So that's
for
what we
12
gotta come up with.
Yeah.
I mean, this year we gotta come up with half of it, but
Right.
I mean, we still gotta come up with it half next year.
Yeah.
I'd say go with it. I mean, I don't wanna do that, but can't control what you can't control.
So this will be on the Wednesday agenda, but with that, before well, I guess the COLA comes into play some too, so you wanna just move right into that
Yeah,
discussion?
we can have that conversation as well, because it all hinges on funding. And what did I do in my front and back? My page just got out of line. So if you remember, during the budget process, we allocated roughly $500,000 for a 5% cost of living. We held that in contingency until we got to some point into the quarter, into the mid-year, that we felt comfortable with our cash flow to release that. So given it where we're at now, at the 5% is $486,000 and some change. That's per year. If you went ahead and enacted that now for 15 pay periods, you're looking at $280,000. A 13 pay period is $243,000. And then we went ahead and broke out a 3% and a 2.5%. 2.5% obviously is going to be half of everything. That's 5, but 3% annually is a shade under 300,000. 15 pay periods is 168,000 and some change, and 13 pay periods, half a year is 145,000. That's what the cost of living would be. So going back to the 5% that was discussed during the budget time, if you enacted it in July, you're looking at an additional $243,000 and some change to your payroll.
And is that based on 6 months?
Yes, sir.
And then you've broken it down by 3% and 2.5% as well.
Yes.
Any comments or discussion?
I'd like to go with 5. I mean, we've got a budget, we have a contingency for it.
I go with the 5 too, cause it's 6 months.
I'm with the 5. Things getting high, but people still got to live. I'm good with the 5%.
So how is that going to play into effect with this insurance conversation and budgetarily?
We'll have to, find roughly $500,000 next year. We'll just have to budget.
It's 1.5 when you take the million for the insurance and about $500,000 for raises. So it'd be 1.5.
That we'll have to budget for in 27.
We shouldn't get too much done.
Well, so the 500 in contingency is not budgeted?
It's budgeted. Yeah, it's there. But I'm just talking about next year budgetarily. You're going to have to, we're just going to have to think that we've got an additional roughly $1.5 million increase to budget for.
Yeah, yeah.
Did we take money out of reserve to balance our budget this year?
Yeah, we took 300,000-400,000.
All right, well, we'll add that item to Wednesday's agenda. If there's no further discussion on it. Item number 14, discussion on emergency services funding.
Okay, I brought in a little bit of backup for this one. Alicia is on the Zoom call with us. I know several of y'all had just lack of a better word, just had some discussion about the fire fee and our current fire fee structure and some different options. I'm not going to belabor what's went on in the past, the current fire fee structure. I just added how it's structured in the how it's currently structured and what the rates are. But if we're looking at making a change to some other funding mechanism, there's several options that we can look at. Obviously, is continue as is, collect the fire fees and supplement that from the general fund as needed. That's been the standard practice. You could look continuing the fire fee, but look at adjusting the rates or adjusting the cap that's currently imposed. You can abolish the fire fee and roll everything back into the general fund. And you, lastly, you can create a special tax district. A lot of jurisdictions are exploring that option about creating a special tax district, as opposed to taking the emergency services funding out of the county M&O or using a fire fee. This next slide, I tried to just take the last couple of years of what the revenues and the expenditures are for emergency services and somewhat convert that to a millage equivalent. So if you're looking at taking your current fire fee structure and rolling that into the general fund and assigning millage, what that kind of equates to over the last couple of years. So as you can see, in 2023, the rough millage equivalent was a little over 2 mills. In 2024, it was 2.1 mills. In 2025, it was 2.8 mills. And in 26, we're looking at 2.3 mills. That's what it looks like if, just as we are now, if you say, okay, we're going to do away with the fire fee and fund this out of the general fund. This is roughly what it would take in a millage equivalent to sustain your services. This isn't growing it. This is just to sustain your current service. So that's kind of what I tried to demonstrate there. Some years are better than others with respect to what fire fee is collected and what the general fund transfer are down there. So I broke under the revenue streams. I broke everything out from the fire fee to your insurance premium tax, your EMS fees, and all your other fees. I didn't want to get too specific splitting those other fees out, but those are grant fees. Those are the fees we've got from the other counties when we did the EMS. So some of that will taper off, as you can tell in 26. So that's what I did there. That kind of just gives you an idea of what your emergency service is worth in millage rate.
How do you deal with the special tax districts?
Okay, we'll get in that in just a minute.
Okay,
So-
okay. And then the other, that was my real question, but, and then the other question is, I had suggested, continuing with the fire fee and then rolling taking out the, EMS side of it, putting it in the general fund.
Okay, and we'll
Because that's where we're losing money is in the, EMS side, right?
we'll get to that here too. So
Okay.
that all that
Well, I
all
thought
that
that's
all
what
that's
I was
covered.
about.
Yeah, all that's covered. So currently we have the enterprise fund for fire and EMS. Not going to overstate the thing, but other Georgia counties are in litigation. Other counties are, my talk with Alicia, are having this very same conversation. So we are at a good time to have this conversation since we have the floss now. And we met with our audit firm Friday, and they have recommended abolishing our current enterprise fund and rolling everything back into the general fund, whether it's a millage base or a fire fee base, but roll all of our, roll the emergency services back into the general fund, or look at the creation of a special tax district. So this is where Ms. Vaughn will come in, because there are certain steps and mechanics of the creation of a special tax district. Obviously, you'd have to renegotiate your IGAs and your service delivery strategies with each municipality within the county. And the Board of Commissioners would have to create by legislation 3 special tax districts, one for the city, one for the town, and one for the unincorporated area. Some benefits of doing that: obviously you could reduce your county M&O millage, but the special tax district would have an assigned millage towards that. However, with floss collections, you can apply that to both the county M&O and the special tax districts. There's an opportunity to allow for the funding of the of those tax districts to be determined by the gross digest value of each of those districts. And to our knowledge, this has already been legally tested and defended in the state of Georgia. Changes that would require, obviously, new accounting system. It's some administrative work. We would have to devise a way of cost allocation for certain things for his administration, such as IT, finance, HR, internal shop, things of that nature. This does create a little bit more transparency in that it requires you to break down where your taxes go. X% goes to county M&O, X% goes, or X number of mills go to fire, X number of mills go to school, so that they see that out there. And this also plays into, developing that emergency services plan. So when you do your service delivery strategy renegotiation, you can develop a plan to maintain and grow your emergency services.
Would if you put a Thompson special tax district, would Thompson floss funds go to be applied to that?
No.
Alicia, you'll probably have to jump in now, because
Yeah, I'm happy to, Brandon. I'm just having a hard time. I can hear you very well. I just can't really hear what the commissioners are saying. So I apologize for that. Can you repeat the question?
I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think it will, but I'll ask. So if we create a special tax district, we would have the 3 tax districts, and for example, would the city of Thompson's floss, would it be able to be applied to the special tax fire district, or no?
No.
Okay.
No, because the special tax districts belong to the county, so they're county millage rates. And so only the county's floss revenue could be applied to the special tax districts to reduce the millage rate. But the county can, if they choose to use their flossed revenue, they could use flossed revenue to reduce those millage rates in those special tax districts.
Well, my question was, of course, the city's getting 1/3 of the floss revenues, and I was just wondering, the majority of the assessed property is in the county.
Correct.
So, the city's kind of getting a little bit more benefit than we are, it appears.
Right, I understand, and I think one of the really good things about special tax districts, and this is a conversation that I'm having in multiple counties across the state. There are a lot of counties right now that are considering creating special tax districts. To Brandon's point, they're very legally defensible, and you're also you're charging the citizens that you're providing the service to for that service specifically. So for instance, the special tax district that you create in just the unincorporated part of the county, you would be able to take the county's IPT tax as well, and you would be able to use it to reduce the millage rate for your unincorporated citizens for fire, because that revenue is generated by the unincorporated part of the county, so it could be used for just the unincorporated part of the county to reduce that millage rate. And so that's another good thing about special tax districts, is you can be more specific about how you utilize revenues that are just generated by the unincorporated part of the county. So FLOST as well, the only thing that gets confusing about FLOST, and it is very confusing, is the way FLOST law stands right now. This could be something that we change going forward.
Right.
But right now, FLOST can be used to reduce special tax district millage rates. But when you do the rollback calculation for FLOST, you show the full rollback of all of the FLOST funds that you collect in just the general fund. So a lot of counties are choosing to use FLOST as property tax relief for just the general fund M&O because of that reason. Now, we might get that changed for future legislation, but that's the way it stands right now. So you may want to consider using your FLOST to just roll back the general fund M&O, but you could absolutely decide to take your IPT tax right now and use it to reduce the millage rate for just the unincorporated special tax district. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating a special tax district for fire for the unincorporated part of the county, and then you'll have a separate one for the two cities that you provide fire to. They'll see a line. If they get their property tax bill, they'll see, if you live in that city, you'll see county M&O, and then you'll see county fire for just that city. If you live in the unincorporated part of the county, you'll see county M&O, and then you'll see a special tax district for fire for the unincorporated county. And so that's the way this would work.
So the special tax district would be labeled fire?
Yes, it will be labeled separately. And so that's one of the good things about special tax districts is they're very transparent. And so the taxpayer will see the charge for fire separated on their tax bill from county M&O.
So it's basically similar to what we do with lighting districts and all of that sort of stuff, essentially. What type of timeline will we be looking at in pulling all of this together, giving things
So
that we'll have to do?
what's the timeline for it? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, what kind of
timeline? Yeah.
timeline would it take from start to finish?
So the first step in this would be obviously you're converting the way that you're charging the citizens for services. So right now you're charging a fire fee. And so what you would be doing is basically just changing the way you're charging for those services. So the fire fee would be eliminated from all of the tax bills, and in return, you're creating these special tax districts. To create the special tax districts, it's a fairly simple process. So the Constitution gives the county the power to create the special tax districts, and that can be done with a simple resolution. So this fall or whenever you normally set your millage rates, that's when you would create the millage rates for the special tax district. Now, obviously, that's also, well, in this situation, Brandon can tell you how it's going to affect your general fund M&O, but it's definitely going to have effect on your general fund M&O. But you would create those special tax districts through resolution. And then once those are created, they're going to hit the property tax bills. Now, the other step that's really important, and you have to do this first, is you need to amend your IGAs with the 2 cities that you're providing fire service to, because you are changing the way you're funding that service. That's going to require an amendment in the IGAs, and that's also going to require you to amend your service delivery strategy. So that has to be done first. That's the first thing you would want to do, is start having conversations with those 2 cities. And then after you get those amended IGAs in place, then you would set the millage rate, you would create those special tax districts. And when you mail the property tax bills, and it could be as early as this year, the taxpayers would see those new special tax districts. Now, you're also going to be at the same time doing your first rollback calculation for whatever floss revenue you have sitting in your account as of the end of June. So all of these things would coincide. So you're going to see the flossed rollback. So you'll see a reduction in potentially just the general fund M&O. That's the way I would recommend that you do it, is you show it just as a reduction of the general fund M&O. And then at the same time, you'll see the creation of this new special tax district for the unincorporated area, and then in the 2 cities. And then you would also see the elimination of the fire fee at that same time.
How do you determine the millage rate for different tax entities? You've got the tax districts. Do you have a different millage rates for each tax district?
You would.
How do you determine that?
You could take their gross digest value
For those areas?
for those areas, and that'd be something you'd have to negotiate during the IGA. But one way is to take the gross digest value of those areas and compute their share, their share, and that would assign that millage rate to that area.
And that kind of addresses the question I had about the city. Because, again, you're looking at, they're getting a third of the lost revenues, so we'd have to, with your intergovernmental agreement, we'd have to apply that to the gross tax digest to determine what their millage rate is. So we'd have to, in essence, determine 4 millage rates and a rollback.
But that brings more parity to what you want to get to, basically, for you. That's what you're looking at for everybody.
Well, I mean, you have to set it for parity. You don't, it's
I
not
know, I was
automatic.
just saying, yeah. I mean, based upon gross millage rate, yeah. You have to
Yeah.
set it for that in the IGA, but yeah.
And that's why I had that question about
Yeah.
the millage rates, because, you gotta, to be fair to us, because the city's getting a third of our money. So, I mean, you're not gonna say, hey, look, we're gonna have you the same tax digest because you're getting a third of our money, and the rest of the county's only getting 2/3. So, I mean, that, you'd have to set the millage rate appropriately so that the city's not getting an outsized amount of money through the floss side of it, Does that make sense?
She can't hear us.
Yeah.
She can't hear.
Okay.
I can't,
Can
Brandon.
you hear
I'm
me
sorry,
talking
I'm having a hard
if I'm
time.
doing this? Can you hear me talking if I'm doing this? No?
I can hear you,
Well, you have to hold that to you then.
Yeah.
You have to hold that to you then.
but I couldn't hear the
Did you hear what I said about on the tax districts, you gotta set 4 different millage rates? You did hear me?
And that
Can
is
you
correct.
hear-
He's asking, you would essentially set 4 different millage rates, and that's correct. You'd have.
That
your-
is correct,
Your county
yes.
M&O, your fire district, and then the 2 Thompson and Deering, the other two
That's
fire
correct.
districts.
I mean, I have no objection to it, I just, it's y'all in the numbers.
I wanna be clear about it.
You would have the 4 millage rates. The difference with the special tax districts, those millage rates are not subject to the rollback calculation. So they're not subject to millage rate hearings. Just the general fund M&O is subject to millage rate hearings. But you will have a calculation every year. So basically, Brandon, the county manager, and the CFO will do a calculation, determine how much revenue the digest for the cities are going to bring in and the digest for the unincorporated part of the county. And then they'll look at expenses and they'll do the expense allocation. And then they're going to come to you with a recommended millage rate every year for those special tax districts.
So the FLOS rollback would only apply to the county M&O, would not apply to the tax districts.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation, is to only apply it to the county general fund M&O. The law does not specifically say that you can't apply it to special tax districts, but I feel like the best thing to do is just apply it to the general fund M&O. The reason why is that the rollback calculation is required only to be done on the general fund M&O. And so if you're using FLOST in that rollback calculation, then in my opinion, you want to have that revenue there to actually reduce the millage rate for the offsetting reduction of the millage rate for the general fund. So if I'm you, my recommendation would be to use it to reduce the general fund M&O only.
Have any of the other counties moved forward with it? I know Chatham County was specifically really talking about doing it. Have you heard that any other counties have really moved forward with this?
Are you talking about converting fees?
The tax districts, yeah, tax districts.
Hey, Brandon, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I was having a hard time understanding.
Yeah, we were trying to do a workaround. I think he's asked if there's other counties that have already implemented this or are in the home stretch of implementing special tax districts.
So there are a lot of counties right now, a lot of counties that are currently charging fees are considering implementing special tax districts. I know Coweta County for sure just implemented special tax districts last year. I just got back from Gordon County. I was there for their strategic planning retreat, and they asked me to do a presentation on the creation of special tax districts. It's a very popular conversation. So I can't say for sure. I'm trying to think of a county that I know that charges fees that has said, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to go to special tax districts.
Ask about Chatham.
And I don't know if any of them have moved forward with it. I know a lot of them are discussing it. But this year would probably be the first year that any of them move forward with it.
He was specifically asking about what you knew about Chatham County.
I do not know. I know that they have the big lawsuit out there. I don't know
about $30 million.
If they're considering doing away with fees and transitioning to special tax district. I don't know the answer to that. I can try to find out and I can let you know, Brandon, but I don't know.
I had a couple questions about the fees, the charts you gave. So some of these numbers look like they're jumping all over the place for several of these years. The other line for revenue, what is the other line?
That's grants, miscellaneous charges, and a bulk of that is the Glasscock and Warren.
So that's going to continue to go down.
Yes, that'll go down.
So are our expenditures going to go down with all this? I mean, I know, see the chief here, but
have you ever known an expenditure to go down?
Well, we're going to lose a good bit, from the, I guess, in that billing category, Glasscock, Warren. So I think it's just a part of this conversation.
Well, we looked at that, but looking at the trend we're at now, I don't want to misspeak and it take a nosedive towards the end of the year.
We're still doing
But,
calls.
but our collections are actually a little bit ahead of what they are this time in the last couple of years. Now, I think some of that is attributed because we're not having to mess with Warren and Glasscock, so the billing office is able to go back and work on those prior year collections from outstanding accounts and pull that money in. So we've actually, at this point, and I had Pam pull it, we're on par to where we have been.
Chief, were you about to say something?
Right now, just what my analysis is, we're trending to possibly be about 100,000 over projected EMS revenue this year. We were very conservative in this year's budget with the numbers. I feel confident we'll meet that and possibly slightly exceed that on the revenue side.
Okay.
How has the hospital situation impacted our,
It hadn't, we're still running plenty of transfers.
I pulled those numbers and it's, the change has honestly been negligible from prior to now, because like Chief said, I see the calls come through, they're still getting hit up for transfers, so. And I believe actually the acuity of calls that are being billed are actually more than they have been in the past. So whatever has been working to work it out, I won't say a wash, but it seems to be trending in the right direction now. Whether that drops out later on this year, that remains to be seen. But so far, we're trending to where we should be.
And then the decrease on the fire fee revenue for 25, was that mostly because of the tax deadline where some of that was collected after?
Because you only got roughly half of the fire fee.
I think this year so far, haven't we already gotten about 700,000 in fire fee that actually was billed?
It just rolled over into.
Last year,
Yeah.
but it's coming in this year.
That's what I thought. Do y'all have a timeline on when this change needed to be made, if that's the direction of the board? Because that's a lot of moving parts with Floss being going in this year. And
It's a good time just to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and make all the structural changes. With the additional of the floss, there's going to be work on us anyway. So,
that goes back to the IGAs, I guess.
yeah, we'd have to have those conversations with Deering and the city. And says this is what we're exploring to do. I mean, we're on the ready.
I think we should move forward.
If it's the board direction that we start digging into this deeper and exploring our options, certainly.
Brother, would it have to be advertised?
She said one of them was.
How much is this advertised? I guess just the IGA with the cities and the town would be
One of them was
advertised.
just a resolution.
Just
Yes.
Brian, are you, so that, as far as
do
the
it.
steps of everything?
yeah, I guess just as far as the public comment period, the public hearing, and all that. But if it's done with resolution, and the IGA,
Yeah, there's really
not.
no advertising requirements. It's just doing the IGA, and obviously the IGA would have to be placed on your board's agenda and then the council's agenda. And so the IGA would have to be approved, and then it's just setting the millage rate. Of course, there's going to be the public communication piece, because the public obviously is very used to paying the fire fee. So I think that part will be important, is how you're communicating the change to the public. And, we can certainly give you some suggestions for that. We'll have to look at, we didn't get into this. I know you and I didn't have a chance to, and I can help you with this behind the scenes, but looking at how the fire fee is charged, when it's charged, I'm not familiar with that, so I don't know if you're charging those fees monthly, but we would need to think about the timing of when you stop those fees, because if you create the special tax district this year, that new millage rate will show up on everyone's property tax bills, and then of course they'll be paying that. Normally that's in December. I'm assuming your tax bills are due by the end of December, so we'll need to put some timing into thinking about when the fire fee part would end, and you would do this conversion.
The fire fee is paid at the same time with the tax notice.
Okay, good.
So yeah,
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, so you'll just be switching from one to the other.
So some counties have it listed, and they'll have a general M&O, and then that fire
So
M&O
it's really
right
just
up under
the
it.
communication
Well, that's
piece.
the thing. I mean,
Ours
it's
is
How you're
fire fee.
communicating it to the
Yeah,
public.
so you just change it to,
It'd be a verbiage thing.
And then
really,
you'd have to
Yeah.
follow, obviously, the same you have to advertise anyway when you set the millage rates for the general fund, so you're basically just setting additional millage rates. So there's no new advertising requirements that would apply to those new millage rates that you're creating. You're just following the same advertising process to create the special tax districts as you do the general fund M&O. And then going forward, they are not subject to the rollback calculation, so they're not part of that advertisement either.
of course, you're rolling back the county M&O, so they're getting it anyway.
Yeah, the floss should cut the general M&O in half.
Right.
Or close to it.
Well, it should cut it significantly, and then, they're getting a benefit anyway.
Right.
Before we move on, Brandon, is there any way that y'all could run us like a spreadsheet that shows the fire fee changing? Like what your recommendation would be if you change that number to get what we would need to collect?
I had a conversation with Greg, changing the cap in, I think we said $10 increments, honestly is very negligible. But I'll give you that spreadsheet. I'll send that spreadsheet, because I was looking around a $250,000 number that we needed to shoot for. And it was very hard to get that. So, but I've got
Hard
those
in what
sheets.
way? Because it changed the rate so much at one time. Is that what you?
The cap didn't generate near
Near what was needed to.
what was needed.
Because we haven't changed the fire fee in how many years? 4.
Yeah.
And so those funds are just being transferred out. I mean,
Well, technically, we're paying, we've got the fire fee, but we're subsidizing it through the general fund anyway, so there's really, it's kind of like, what's the point? The other question I have is with the freeze in the assessment or the decrease in the assessment type thing, would that affect us with the freeze in the assessment values to 2025?
It just affect your revenue number. It just affect what
Right,
you anticipate to
But
for revenue.
the fire fee is not affected by that.
No,
So,
it's just a flat rate.
and so that would have to be included in that calculation, I'm assuming, because we gotta have, the decrease in assessment value which would be under gross digest.
And suffice it to say, your fire fee, your special tax district millage rate would never be the static. It would increase or
Right.
decrease every year, depending on your digest, and obviously,
Well, that's what she was saying.
depending on your expenditure, on your
Yeah.
requested budget.
Well, so we gonna get a spreadsheet on it then?
yeah, that's what I would suggest. And
So just to be clear, you want to see what raising the fire fee
To be where-
in certain increments with, the 5 cent, 6 cent, 8 cent, whatever, and then adjusting the cap.
exactly.
Okay.
And then what would be required if we were to make a change to just have a special fire district or fire M&O? What exactly would that millage be? Which I think you've already pretty much got here in this.
You're looking around, just roughly around 2 mills and some change.
You know, like 2.3, 2.4 mils there.
And then would it not be possible? I mean, you've got 2026 projections, but would we not be able to lower the county's general M&O if we're not subsidizing the fire district? If we just put it truly in the fire M&O?
You would have your growth, you'd have your digest value. You just say 2.3 mils, this is the money that you got. So, yeah.
Well, let's just continue looking at that. We don't need to have that on Wednesday's agenda. I don't think there's nothing.
No, I mean, we'll start.
Unless you want to have additional discussion, you want to have some of that stuff by Wednesday?
I know I can have the square footage.
Well, let's just add it back for discussion.
Let's add it back for discussion, and I may be able to have the cap discussions as well. Okay. So I might have a little bit truer number.
Commissioner Favors, did you have a question?
No, I'm ready to move away from this fire fee stuff so that we can get it, move forward with this and get out of this and waste any time on this.
All right, we'll move on to item number 15 then, discussion on Floston Tax Digest, looking ahead.
I think we've probably pretty much already discussed most of this. I just did want to, we collected about another $294,000 in April in Floss, and just taking averages, we're looking about being able to apply about $1 million, a little over $1 million to tax relief this year. The law did change, so it added a little bit more work to us that we can apply January to June, the end of June's collections towards our tax relief this year. So
that mill's like $900,000, right?
Mill is almost, it's $894.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's 1 mill then.
Correct.
And we still got 2 months to go, so if we have strong months like the past two, another 600,000.
I had it on here. Actually, the value of the mill in 25 was $894,747.
Yeah, I read that the other day. So,
Bill, is that all?
It's $300,000
What happened to the money from the data center? Bill, what happened to the money from the data center? Oh, it's not up yet, though, right?
It's not up. We don't. that is. If that money ever comes, if they ever build, who knows?
So we get $300,000 a month, and but the city gets a third of that, so we get $200,000. So
no, that is our
that's
portion.
the exact number.
Yeah,
the
$1 million is the county's portion.
He's got it in
2026.
Yes.
Total, all of 2026.
Yeah. Well, for the first 6 months.
Page 177. There's a spreadsheet. It shows the cities what we've already collected and sent to them and are dispersed, and what the county's portion is.
Okay, where's that now?
Page 177.
We've collected countywide about $1.5 million, and $1,070,836 will come to the county.
Is there anything else to add on Tax Digest?
No, like I said earlier, I didn't want to alarm you, but I did,
Well, I was looking at those numbers too. I think what it is the county did several years worth of reval, and I think it's finally leveling out.
And that's why I just wanted to go ahead and prepare y'all. Do not anticipate, leaps and bound growth in the Tax Digest this year.
I mean, because it's in line with 2020 and some of these pre-COVID years. That 3.5% mark. All right, item number 16, discussion on FY 2027 budget calendar. This is the budget policy.
This is the budget. This is the budget policy and the calendar. left pretty much everything intact that y'all are used to as far as the different schedules that they use. Capital expenditures under number 6, department submit a procurement plan. I'd ask that. Some were good, some wasn't. And then I mislabeled that, should be number 7 under budget adjustments. Since the chief's here, he'll go ahead and get the preview. I am going to ask for about a 3 to 5% cut in from departments to see where we can get, since our tax digest doesn't look like it's going to have a lot of growth. So I'm going to ask departments to sharpen the pencil, especially on operational things. Since I've been here going on 6 months, and even though I put the budget together in sort of a record time, but going back and studying it and looking at some stuff, there's a lot of line items that I think could either be redistributed to other areas or not needed at all. There's one department, and it's not fire. There's one department that I think had like a $8,000 line item for office supplies. I'm kind of scratching my head on that one. So as I'm here a little bit longer, I'm starting to, I can monitor things and see, we're coming up on mid-year and kind of seeing where things might truly should be.
Does she need to be here?
Yes.
Oh, for that?
Oh, Alicia?
Yeah.
Oh, no, unless y'all have any other questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell her thank you.
Tell her to go eat dinner.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll handle the other. She did provide some information, but y'all probably shoot me on this one, so.
Okay,
But yeah,
thank you for
thank you,
having
Alicia.
me.
Thank you, Alicia.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your meeting.
You too.
Well, you can stay if you want to.
Yeah.
That was an
She
answer
got
right
off the
there,
hurry.
wasn't
I
it?
don't guess she wanted to.
I'm gone.
She
Click.
hung up on you. Item number 16 then, discussion on the budget calendar. With that being said, Brandon, we can move that to Wednesday for approval.
And I will say, if we go down this special tax district, I mean, obviously, this calendar is subject to change. So, there might be some tweaks. I did want to give the departments about a month to work on their budgets. Since I am making an ask, I've inserted an additional work session for budget development. I'm always accustomed to, and I like to have sort of a budget retreat, so we can sit down and go through this stuff. And then I added, the days for the first, second, and third public hearings for millage rate adoptions. So obviously I feel confident in saying this budget calendar will change. I would like to have the budget adopted by sometime in October. The millage rate set in September. I'm hoping we can pull that off.
Well, theoretically, and I mean, we could stay with the fire fee this year and then get everything prepared, and then next year, January 1st, switch over. Because, I mean, it is halfway through the year, and, I mean, do we have enough time to do all that, figure it all out? I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's what it is, but we still, we'll run, or is it, if we set the resolution and stuff, we'll be ready to do and go forward with the tax district this year, right?
Yeah. I think there's time.
Yeah.
There is. I don't know if the IGAs would be a factor.
Now, if one of them decides to throw a wrench in it, then
Well, that's my question.
That's a conversation we can have privately. But
Yeah.
there's always something. But assuming everything clicks along, I think in September this should be set up.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with it, but I just didn't know. I'm just expecting a wrench, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's better to expect one than.
Oh yeah, and I'm pretty confident where I'll know where it'll come from. But
Well, me too, but, and, this
And
is
I'm-
not a simple
and
thing
I'm-
for comprehension.
No, and I've sort of anticipated that hiccup, if you will, so,
Well, I appreciate having
Yeah.
that, but,
yeah.
that helped a lot, so, you know, I mean, I'm good with the change, it's just, we gotta pay our bills, and you know, however way we do it, it's fine with me, you know.
All right, well, let's move on to item number 17, discussion on fiscal calendar year.
And this might be one that gets me run out of the room. I'm not
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're
asking,
throwing a lot of things tonight.
hey, strike while the iron's hot. Because Department of Revenue is getting later and later pushing out some of their instructions, we're seeing the tax appraisals going out later. The tax commissioner did indicate that the payers enjoy paying their tax bill after the first of the year. I'm not recommending that we do it now, but I think we probably need to have a conversation at some point about adjusting our fiscal year calendar, either to July to June, as opposed to January. Because with, like this year, the fire fee came in, a portion of it come in after January the 1st, portion of our taxes come in. There's a lot of budget adjustments that it takes to do that. So if everything came in the same fiscal year, it makes things a little bit easier. You're collecting for that year. It's just a thought. Again, I wanted to give you this light reading. I'm not asking for a change, but I did want to put that on the radar since we're having all these big conversations. If it's something.
We've been talking about that for years, I don't know.
The first year is rough because you gotta have 2 audits, because you got a short year and you're stepping off into the bigger year, but, there's a breakdown here of, 76 counties are on the June 30th ending.
I was surprised to see how many neighbors were following that schedule instead of the calendar year schedule like we do.
So, some follow the federal and some follow the calendar, so it's just,
Columbia, Jefferson, Warren, Lincoln, Washington, Wilkes, all of these counties are. But that's not something we got to decide tonight, so you just wanted to bring
and it's
that
nothing
up.
we gotta decide, in Wednesday, but I did wanna plant that seed.
All right, we'll move on to item number 18, discussion on contract status.
Blind Willie is, we did get the gas tank removed, pumped out.
Go back to 18, I think. I think you skipped ahead. Contract status for the copy machines.
No, there's a contract status update.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Blind Willie is, we're waiting on the soil test to come back and then we can restart that project. If you haven't went down and looked at the baseball towers, I think Spratlin's done a very good job. They've done some good work, so that project is starting, I won't say fully wind down, but, we should have final walkthrough maybe the 3rd or the final week in June. So we've got about a month left. They're really, really wrapping up. Raysville is wrapping up. Probably ready for a pre-final out at Big Heart sometime, maybe towards the end of this week, first of next week. So we're getting some bigger projects wrapped up. Still starting the right-of-way acquisition for Rock House. Did have an issue with the design. They did not capture some well data that was out there, so that it's not going to affect the right of way, but it does affect the construction drawings. Having to label that out and change some configuration of the drainage structure, so that is on the designer. They're working through that, and I think that's about the high points. I just wanted to update y'all on a couple of those things.
All right. So that will move to item number 19.
This is our multifunction printer copier lease. We're currently with Pollock. We did do our due diligence and looked at state contracts, looked at other vendors. Their information is in here. However, even with Pollock not being on state contract, they gave us better terms and lower pricing, and they were able to provide a plotter that met our IT requirements as the others did not. And so for the cost, we're recommending that we just continue with Pollock.
Is that within your purview that you do that independently, or is that just for information? Or is a lease outside of you?
A lease is outside of me.
Okay.
So it would, to enter in that contract would require a board action.
All right. If there's no discussion on that item, we'll add it to Wednesday's agenda. That leads us to item number 20, discussion on recreation concessions contract.
In the past, the county had a contractor that managed concessions out at Sweetwater. I'm proposing to do that again. We're just full-time employees that work here. I know there's a couple in the government center. It's just gotten too much. We're struggling to find folks to work the concessions. With the amount of cash that's out there, it's kind of hard. You just have to police volunteers, so there is a risk management perspective there as well. So I would like to, I just wanted to gauge y'all's temperature. I'd like to go out for solicitation to get someone to take over and manage the concessions out at Sweetwater. They would have to do all the regular scheduled games and any tournaments that they do. They propose their menu, if you will, and then agree to pay us a percentage of revenues back. There's a couple of examples. I wrote up a draft statement of work. The previous county contract is included. And then there's just some other examples from other jurisdictions, one from Dalton, one from South Carolina that, so I would request to fly RFP for that, and we pursue a contractor to manage concessions. We provide the space, the electricity, and the game times, dates, and they provide the labor, the material, and pay us a portion of the gross proceeds.
Is there any objection for that going out for RFP?
We did that in the past.
Yes.
So,
All right. Well, that needs no vote. We will need a motion to go into executive session for potential litigation, contractual, and there is not expected to be any action from this. So if anybody wants to wait outside and come back in, you're welcome to do that. No, sir. Thank you. Vice Chairman Wilson has moved to go into executive session.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Joplin.